And thanks, Dan. And hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. It's really great to have you all with us. So, my name's Elaine, and I'm excited to be back presenting our monthly Lloyd's Careers Live. So, we call this the careers fair that comes to you. So, every month, remember us on the first Tuesday of every month at 5 o'clock, we bring you insights into things like apprenticeships, careers to consider, and always insider tips from our early careers team at Lloyd's Banking Group. So we're really, really glad that you've joined us. Now, it's not just me today. I'd like to introduce you to my colleague, Mahitabel. Mahitabel.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mahitabel, and I'm an apprentice at LBG. So I'm currently studying the Level 6 Financial Services Apprenticeship. It's great to have you all here in Lloyd's Careers Live. And given today's sessions about acing interviews, I'm really excited to be here. So, some of you might be starting to apply for unis, jobs, or apprenticeships. And with those come with applications and might come with assessment centers. So you might feel a bit nervous about this, and that's fine. A few nerves could even be considered good because they show that you care. So we're here tonight to give you some top tips for interviews and as well give you a little bit of an insight into the LBG recruitment process.
For sure. And I mean, when it comes to having a great career here at Lloyd's Banking Group, we believe that there is always more than one way. So, myself, I've done lots of different types of roles in lots of different parts of the bank, namely working in HR for the last few years, but more recently working in the apprenticeship team, and which I love. It's a great opportunity to meet lots of people. And my role is all about making sure that our colleagues have a great apprenticeship experience. How about you, Mahitabel? What have you been doing?
So I work in a cash management and payments product team. And cash management and payments is very important to businesses because it, regardless of where sector that they're from, it's an exciting department to be a part of. But tonight on Careers Live, we want to share all of our knowledge and insight with you on about how to ace your interviews. So let me talk a little bit about who's going to be joining us today. So we'll be joined by Ian, who leads up our youth engagement outreach program to schools and colleges. And we'll also be joined by Kirsty, who leads on recruitment of new talent here at Lloyd's. We'll also be joined by Kerry, who's one of our amazing people directors. And we'll also be joined by Jack from Capfinity, and they are the wonderful team who design our recruitment centers. And the last but not least, we'll be joined by Robin, who is one of our wonderful apprentices, who is currently studying on her HR apprenticeship.
So, lots of exciting guests that we've got to chat to you today. So, we know that many of you are going to be thinking about whether you want to do an apprenticeship, a graduate scheme, an internship, or a T level placement, even. And just to say, we will be having Lloyd's apprenticeship opportunities available for you to apply for, which will be live mid December. Now, these roles will mean that you'd start with us in September 2025. So, how great would that be to have something lined up for next year? So, what you need to do is sign up to our Imagine What's Next platform so that you can be notified when they go live. And you'll see behind me, if I point to the right direction, you'll see here that there is the QR code behind me, which you can scan to sign up to our Imagine What's Next platform. But you will also be putting that in the chat as well. So, if you sign up to the platform, you will be notified when those roles go live.
Lovely. I want to talk a little bit more about the apprentice, Robin, and she's going to be exploring how she came to work at Lloyd's and also what she's experienced so far in her role. But before we'd like to know about that, we're going to open a poll and find out how you would feel about working at Lloyd's Banking Group in the future.
Yeah, definitely. So on a scale, on a scale of 1 to 5, to what extent do you think Lloyds Banking Group might be the right destination for you? Now, if you're absolutely convinced you want to be here in Lloyds and maybe be like us, a future presenter of Careers Live, then you can give it a 5. Maybe you don't know much about us at Lloyds Banking Group and the roles that we've got here. So if you want to put a 1, that's absolutely fine too. But if you're curious right now, hopefully tonight will give you a bit of a better idea of who we are and what the culture is actually like here at Lloyds Banking Group. So let's have a little look at the responses, Isabel. Okay. All right. We've still got some coming through, but it looks very positive in terms of people wanting to find out more about us and potentially work for us. The higher numbers are definitely in the 3s, 4s and 5s. So that's really, really good. And I can see, 77% of you have already voted. So that's great. Thank you for your responses. So back to you, Mahita.
One thing that we care very deeply about in Lloyd's Banking Group is inclusivity. So closed captioning is available for this meeting if you need it. We'll cover a lot of ground tonight, so if you need more time to take it all in, you'll be able to watch this broadcast recording from tomorrow on our morning on our YouTube channel.
Absolutely. So, well, let's get underway then. So, one of the things we're going to talk about today is interviews, and we know that for a lot of you, or a lot of people, a lot of us, they feel a bit intimidating. But really, if you try and think about it, they're actually just conversations where you get a really great opportunity to show who you are and what you can do. And we know, when I was thinking about why interviews might be scary for a lot of us, there's a number of reasons I'd say for that, really. So, fear of the unknown. You don't know, do we, in advance, which questions we're going to get asked or who we're going to be talking to sometimes. Sometimes that can make you feel a little bit unprepared. There's a lot riding on it, isn't there? If it's a job or a school or something you really want, then, you might worry that you feel under pressure to sort of impress and that you might sort of say the wrong thing. Sometimes you might feel like people are being a little bit judgy and they're judging you on everything that you say and do, which, as you know, it would make anybody feel sort of, under pressure and be nerve-wracking. We've all heard of things like stage fright, which I think is the proper name is performance anxiety. So, you might get nervous about having to perform like on the spot and sort of show your best self. And of course, there's always the fear of rejection. Nobody likes being told no, and the possibility of not getting the job or your place or whatever it is that you're applying for can be really daunting. But all of those things that I've talked about, it's really normal to feel that way. The more that you're going to prepare and practice, the more confident you'll become. And think about the interviewers. They've all had to go for interviews themselves. They've been in your shoes before.
That's lovely, and that's why on Careers Live, we love to bring you the experts and people experienced in the field to help out. First up, we have Ian and Kerry. As experts in this field, they will help us to learn more about how to be successful in interviews and some stress managing tips.
Thanks, Mahita. So yeah, hello, Ian and Kerry. Welcome to Careers Live.
Hi.
Hello,
Hi.
hello. So
Hello.
hello. So we're going to dive in then with you both into the world of applications, interviews, assessment centres. So I'm going to come to you first, Ian. So can you tell us a little bit
Okay.
about your role at Lloyds Banking Group?
So working alongside you, obviously you look after apprenticeships and apprentices coming into Lloyd's, and then I work a little bit earlier in the system. So I look after everybody who's out there who's under 19 in school and college. The youngest students that we have on some of our experiences are 6 years old. Can never start too early on your career with Lloyd's Banking Group. And it's all about helping you guys to gather the essential skills that you need so that when it comes time for these interviews, you are on it and you've got everything that you need and feel fully prepared and as best as possible, as few nerves as we can possibly have.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, a lot of our students will be thinking about where they want to work. I mean, what sort of things would you say? What's important for them to think about when they're looking for a new role in a new company? And
Hmm. I think when you're at school, it feels like my first job is to actually just get a job. But remember, you're going to spend a lot of time at work. So you want to make it somewhere that counts for you. One of the things that we would always advocate is look for what value.
Oh, have we lost Ian there?
Oh,
Might have done.
he's still on the call. I think he's back.
I just got disconnected. Am I back?
You're
It
back,
just I
Ian.
was
We
just
can hear
I was just
you and see
disconnected
you.
by 50p in the meter. Yeah, I think you spend a lot of time at work, so make sure that the company that you're researching aligns with your values. And if you're not sure what that means by values, there are lots of good resources out there to help you understand yours. I always think work will always have its good days and its not so good days. That's life. But when you're surrounded by people who are like you and share the same values as you can face into anything. So that would be a good tip from me in there.
Yeah, when they're looking for a new company, definitely. And I mean, if they're at the start of their application process, what advice would you give to our students?
Prepare really and know yourself. I think that's the start of everything in there. Christmas is a great time when you can do a bit of reflection and just really think through all of those stories from the past. Go back to, when you were 13, what clubs, societies, or things you joined, because sometimes it's about remembering the little detail of, like that didn't go right or that went brilliantly. Those moments when you felt super proud, those moments when you felt you have to bounce back from something. These are the stories that you'll want, whether that's in a university application or in a job application as well, because those are the things that tell an employer or a university admitter who you are, not who everybody else is, but actually who you are as an individual.
I know it's a lot, isn't it, for people? People's stress levels can go up in the lead up to like when they're getting ready to apply for roles and stuff. Ian, I mean, how do you think people can manage that? How can they manage their stress levels?
So I could take over a whole hour on how to manage stress, right? Kerry's going, Ian, tell me, like, what do you do
Yeah.
here if he knows the secret? Yeah. Look, I think the big thing with jobs is quite often, we build stress up for ourselves because we make everything a kind of do or die moment. Okay, we build an expectation on top of the job application as if we don't get this job, the world will come to an end and we will never be happy. And that's a condition that we've chosen to attach to it. So part of managing stress is about looking at this job and going, yeah, I would love to get this job and I'm sure I'll be happy with it. But equally, I know that there are other jobs out there that I can be happy in as well. And it's that do or die thing that we create for ourselves that actually kind of creates the stress where we're kind of looking at that job and going, if I don't get that, the whole world will come to an end. And when you're of a certain age, shall we say, you realize actually none of it really mattered in the end anyway. So I think it's just be kind to yourself, really, in there as well in the process.
Yeah, yeah. As you say, and like what we've been talking about, rejection is inevitable. Nobody really
Yes.
goes for gets the first job that they've ever applied for. I mean,
Yes.
you've sort of been around in
Round the
the
block
bank
a bit.
for a little while. You've been in the bank for a
Round the
little
block a
while,
bit.
Ian.
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
saying. I mean, you
Yes.
must have had some knockbacks yourself. I mean, how
I
did it feel
have.
for you, and how did you sort of come back from it then?
Well, look, I will always tell people in the spirit of vulnerability, just me and 1,400 friends on here, that very famously, I managed to an interview for a job where I was the only candidate and I still didn't get the job, right? However, there was a very good reason why I didn't get that job. And actually, it's because when myself and the hiring manager spoke about it, it actually just really wasn't the right thing for me or for them. And within days of that encounter, not only did I not feel bad about it, because who wants to do a job that's really not right for you, but actually, of course, what comes around the corner, something that really suited me better. So we don't have to worry too much about jumping at any opportunity in there. It's all about finding the thing that is right for us.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, definitely some useful tips and food for thought, Ian. But please stay with us for a minute because I'm going to bring in
Sure.
Kerry now. So, Kerry, welcome.
Hello.
Welcome to Grace Live. It's great to have you here with us. I mean, do you want to tell everyone what your role is in Lloyds Banking Group and what it involves, first of all?
Sure. So my role is People and Places Director. That probably doesn't make any sense to anybody. So my job is I lead for around 7,000 people across the Lloyd's business. I lead for reward, training, learning, sort of role design, organization structures, property strategy, and basically, how do we recognize and make people feel great about working here? So recruitment into my area of the business is something that I take a lot of time on. So yeah, that's sort of my job. It's everything to do with people and everything to do with places that they work in. Is my
It sounds very broad, and I think there's going to be lots of people interested to hear about what you're going to tell us on the call today. I mean, obviously, looking at all the areas that you look after, you must have done a lot of hiring. You must have done a lot of sort of recruitment. What are the key sort of traits that you look for when you are actually hiring somebody, Kerry, would you say?
Yeah, so it's really interesting, this one, isn't it? Because when you boil it down, you quite often think it's going to be really technical. But when you actually think about the things that have massively attracted you to a candidate, it's often the very soft things that have happened. So, for instance, for me personally, and for a lot of people that I work with, what's most important is that person's willingness to learn. So that real appetite to get your hands dirty, to get stuck in, and to find ways. So that level of curiosity is really key. If you can find someone that's just really keen to find a way to do something, to learn how to do something, then that's really attractive. I think also that what goes with that is a level of positivity. So when you can go into that saying, look, I don't know, I haven't done that before, but I would love to learn, and I will throw myself into the deep end, and I'm going to kind of collaborate with others. I'm going to be part of a team, and I'm going to go in with the right spirit. Again, that's just a real pull for any interviewer. We're all human, right? We want to work with people that have an energy and a positivity. And so I would say, just remember that it's not that we're trying to look at a very specific thing that you can or can't do. It's that we're looking at the attitude of the person that's going to learn and grow with the job that we're going. So I would say traits, be succinct. So only answer questions for a few minutes and then stop. And in the spirit of that, there you go. That's the end of mine.
Well, I mean, from your perspective then, Kerry, I think, some great advice there. Absolutely what we're looking for at Lloyds Banking Group as well. How would you best prepare for an actual job interview, would you say?
Yeah, sure. So often in an interview, they might share with you the topics or the criteria or competence, we often call it, that they're looking at. So, for instance, they might say that this is we're going to ask you questions on influencing skills or stakeholder management. If they do tell you that, then that's really helpful, because that allows you to kind of really think about the topics that you want to give examples on. If they don't, the clues are often in the role spec, in the advert. So go back to the advert and just pick out what you're seeing, and that they're sort of saying these are the things that we're looking for, because that's likely what they're going to ask you questions on. So just to be really clear, go back to the advert, just refresh yourself. Then when you get your examples, this is going to sound very simple. Make sure you give the context of the example. Make sure you give the thing that you did personally in that example, and make sure you give the outcome. Now, those things don't need to last very long, but if you don't set the context, don't give the what I did, and don't then say how it landed, then the interviewer is unlikely to be able to give the full points. because what we're looking for is, do we understand? Do we know how that person interacted? And do we know the outcome of that? And that doesn't mean the outcome has to be great, by the way, but it needs to be a full story. And those 3 parts are the full story. So be very, very clear on that when you go in. Be as clear and quick as you can be so you can get through as many questions as possible. And the way to do that is to have examples, as Ian has already mentioned, written down, or even just remember the time I was in Scouts and did this, remember the time, just things that when you're under a little bit of pressure, you can look down at a piece of paper and go, oh, I've got an influencing example. So those are the things that I would say. Really think about that and do your research as well on the firm, on the business.
Yeah, some really good tips there, Kerry. I mean, from your own perspective, I'm sure you've done many interviews in your time. How have you dealt with sort of any nerves? Because it's a lot to remember, isn't it? When you're going for an interview, you want to get your point across, you want to tell your story.
You do. And nerves are really natural. And I think this has already been mentioned today. Like, actually, nerves are really they're your adrenaline. They will carry you. They will often mean that you bring to the table some real energy. So don't worry too much about that. What I would say is use your grounding. So your feet both should be on the floor flat. That is a grounding technique. It allows your body to feel a bit more stable and secure. So just use that to give yourself some confidence. Make sure you've got some water, because water on the side, interestingly, if you just occasionally take a sip, it slows you down and it stops you talking for a minute so that you can take that pause to just think about what you've just been asked or what's happening. So again, just use the things around you to try and ground you and slow you down. Don't be scared to take a pause. One of the things as an interviewer we often see is people want to talk at you at 1,000,000 miles an hour because they have got everything in their life that they want to tell you. There will be some really clear examples, and when the interviewer wants more, they'll ask you for more. So again, just remember to breathe and remember to pause and ground yourself.
Oh, that sounds like great advice to me. I mean, there's so many questions that I would love to keep asking you, but I'm going to bring you and Ian back sort of together now on for this next sort of bit. I mean, Kerry talked about some of the things that would be good qualities and characteristics, Ian, to help people be successful, in their interviews and some techniques there. I mean, is there anything, Ian, that you think that you'd want to add around helping people to thrive? So are there any particular qualities? We talked about being curious, Kerry talked about. Is there anything you'd add to that?
I think, as Kerry said, use the guide in the job description. What you will find is that for most employers, sometimes they will use language that maybe you're not familiar with. So a good framework like the Skills Builder framework might be something that also just keep in reserve, because you may see a word that's unfamiliar. Maybe you look at resilience and you think, I'm not actually quite sure what that means. But then if you've been following Skills Builder at school, then you know that staying positive is the word that you've been taught in school, and then all of the evidence and all of the things that you've been doing in school around staying positive when things haven't gone quite your way will work just as well. So employers can sometimes play around with the words that you're not familiar with, and actually if you're not sure what a word means, I think it's okay to ask. It's much better to ask than just imagine and make it up in there, because that will that will get confusing for everybody very quickly.
Yeah, and I mean, Ian, I know you work a lot with Skills Builder and essential skills, don't you, in the work that you do with schools? So if someone is coming straight from education, how can they sort of show that they've got some experience, do you think, of some of those essential skills?
Okay, so my top tip and resource, and maybe we can get this in the chat if I message Dan, is within Skills Builder website, which is called skillsbuilder.org, so quite easy. There is a section called Skills Builder Home Zone, and in Home Zone you can do 2 amazing things. So one, you can do Skills Builder Benchmark, so that will help you to understand against the 8 essential skills how you line up. And don't worry that you're not going to score 15 out of 15 in all of them, because there are lots of people in Lloyd's who are not at that level anyway. But at least it'll help you to understand who you are if you're not sure. The second part you can do is the section there called Skills Builder Home Zone, and that's got tons of different activities on every specific one of the Skills Builder 8 skills that will help you in your remaining time at school to be able to develop each of those skills. So even if right now you're listening to, as Kerry said, give really clear examples, use the STAR technique or the CAR technique, and you're thinking, I haven't got enough of those, it's still not too late to be able to create and find examples and get out there and do things. It's never going to be too late. And even the resilience that you're going to face now going into the Christmas period, probably applying for apprenticeships, applying for UCAS, creating a personal statement, spending time with your family and various other things. There's a lot going on, and there's a story to unpick in all of those things. And I know you're going to be short on time, but I just wanted to say, we as employers are just as interested in examples that aren't necessarily fixated around work experience. If you have work experience, that's great. But if you've been in clubs, societies, if you've tried a sport, if you've got responsibilities for looking after younger siblings or various other things, you are developing and practicing skills within all of those contexts. When you apply as an 18-year-old, we know you're not going to have 36 years of work experience, but we are interested in all the different things that you did because you chose to do it rather than because somebody else told you to go and do it.
Great, thanks, Ian. And I've just got time for one more question for Kerry. So just to last question, what advice would you give someone who's starting out on their career journey, or if someone's wanting a career move?
So what would I say? I would say really double down on what gives you energy. So what stuff are you doing that's making you feel really happy and really proud and able to sort of get up in the morning and kind of run at things? So think about the tasks, the activities that are giving you a buzz. Those things, therefore, you will look for those in a job, because that's really important, because if you're getting energy from it. So look for the things that give you energy. Don't chase the grade or something that sounds really exciting. Think about the content of the role, not necessarily what might a title be, because they can be slightly misleading. And think about what's the big dream. So what story do you want to tell about the learning that you've had and the moves that you've had, etc. So look at people that are doing jobs that you sort of envy. Link in with them and try and get them to spend 10 minutes or volunteer to shadow them for a meeting. All of these things they can do, or you can go along to events and get involved in things. As Ian says, this really isn't about showing that you've done loads of jobs as such in terms of a career, but it is showing that you've volunteered for things and you've got yourself involved and you've shadowed and you've done things very clearly off your own back.
Yeah, really, really important. Well, I'm afraid we're going to have to move on to the next guests and stuff now. We've got a video to show very shortly, but thanks so much, Kerry and Ian, for sharing your top tips and insights there. It's been great having you along today. Thank you. And so, Mahitabel, we're going to hand back to you now.
So last month, we welcomed the new class of 2024. And this means over 600 graduates and apprentices join us at Lloyds Banking Group. And here are some reasons why they love to work at LBG.
Love to work at LBG. So it was the feeling that I got when I was welcomed by my team.
Helping people in the most vulnerable of moments.
There's always some activities going on, fun activities.
Honestly, I actually really can't appreciate everyone enough.
When I joined the group, the first day itself was very warm and welcoming.
And fun as well, a bit of fun too when you were doing the learning and stuff. And
everybody's welcoming, warm, you feel at home.
Satisfaction when you finish the call and somebody's like, thank you, you've helped so much, just makes your day a little bit better.
It's just been very enlightening to have a team that actually supports me and gets me going and ready for work. I've never really had that before.
As a bit of a nerd, the technology is really appealing.
The systems, they're easy to learn.
I really do love it here, and the people are great, everyone is great, coming to the office is great.
My training was genuinely fantastic. It set you up for success.
You are free to express yourself.
There's a lot of stuff to do in Lloyds that outside of work,
I found the opportunities available very exciting.
It was easier to do the training with people that you can kind of get on with and have a laugh with.
There is always something that I learn every single day I'm at work.
I felt included from the start. It was really professional, really efficient.
I really enjoy the emphasis placed on personal growth and development.
Every avenue is open, you know, it's very friendly, people are willing to talk and share what they do.
I love that video. But now we're going to go over to Kirsty to find out some interview top tips. So, hello Kirsty. Could you talk us through the recruitment process?
Of course I can. So the recruitment process for Lloyds Banking Group for our apprenticeships, it's essentially broken into like 3 stages. So we've got the sort of the initial application stage that you sort of conduct online. At that point then it sort of like splits into 2, if you like. So we have like a non-tech and a tech route that we would consider, and the tech routes being more sort of geared towards like our engineering apprenticeships. So the non-tech, which could be things like our finance, our HR apprenticeships, things like that, they would go on to sort of an online assessment, which is then followed with what we would refer to as the job insight assessment stage. All of those are done sort of online yourself, sort of at your own pace. The tech route then sort of skips that online assessment, goes straight into the job insights assessment, but they do have their own sort of secondary level there that could be looking at things, more specialist sort of things along the lines of like coding for potential, for example. So if you're successful at that stage, then you would sort of be contacted by Capfinity, and they would invite you to one of our assessment centre days, which could be done in person, but at the moment they usually get and run virtually.
That's really nice. So why do LBG opt for an assessment centre rather than just an interview?
So we get this question quite a lot, in fairness. I think the biggest benefit of doing an assessment centre, whether that's in person or sort of run virtually, is we have sort of, like I said, we have a number of assessors on the day that will sort of take part in the actual activity, but it gives us the opportunity to see all aspects of individuals. So although we'll sort of focus on the sort of individual assessment sort of thing where we'd have like the one-to-one interview, we're also able to assess people on like micro activities, and there's also a group activity that we find really useful to see how everyone's engaging with multiple people and how everyone's working as well as a team.
So is there anything that people need to do before the assessment centre day?
So absolutely. So I think Jack might go into a little bit more information later, but we are running sort of a new process at the moment where there is going to be some pre-work that we're asking candidates to do. Like I said, Jack will sort of cover that a little bit later on. But from my perspective, I think the best advice I'd give to anyone going into any sort of assessment centre is just to do a little bit of homework, do a bit of research, and just sort of find out a little bit more about the group or a little bit more about the place that you're looking to apply. Specifically, if you know exactly what role you're going into. So if you're interested in a specific apprenticeship, we don't expect you to know how to do that job. That's part and parcel of the apprenticeship, but just have a bit of an understanding of what that might lead on to, sort of thing. So just do a bit of preparation work.
Yeah, and I find research is really good because it makes you feel more prepared when you're going in and talking with the people inside the company. So if people are successful in the assessment centre, how would they find out?
So in short, we will make phone calls to successful candidates. We aim to do that within a week. But a little bit more on that sort of thing, just to explain that obviously you've gone through your assessment centre. It's been quite an intense day. So obviously we understand that you're sort of be itching to have your response or your outcomes communicated. There is a bit of work that we need to do in the background. So like I said, we could be running multiple assessment centres, which might all be for a similar role in a similar location. So there is a bit of a calibration sort of piece that gets completed at the end of all of those assessment centres. With sort of like successful candidates then will be selected. So we make those offers then by phone call. But every single candidate that goes to the assessment centre, they do all receive their own feedback report. So we just think obviously that's a really useful useful sort of bit of information that we can give everyone. And that does take a little bit longer because they are all individual and bespoke to that candidate, but it's just really helpful to be able to provide everyone something that they can take forward into their next interview.
That's really helpful to the person and for their development. I actually remember getting my feedback back and going forward with it. So I have one more question for you. So what kind of candidates stand out to you in an interview?
So personally for me, I'd say somebody who can demonstrate their own self-awareness. And by that, I mean somebody who sort of like has a really good understanding of their own strengths, and equally what they could potentially look for to improve themselves. So somebody who's able to sort of demonstrate their own strengths and how they can sort of apply that to everyday tasks, not just the tasks that we're asking in front of you sort of thing, but equally someone who's just really keen to look for those development opportunities so they can further their own careers as well. But I think more generally speaking, I think if you're enthusiastic, if you can be engaging, and if you've generally just got a really good positive attitude throughout the entire assessment centre day, I think that naturally just comes across and stands out for everyone, like somebody who can sort of show that they're adaptable. Yeah, I think that would stand out for everyone in that sense.
Thank you so much, Kirsty, for that insight. Now we'll go to Jack, who will give us a few more interview and assessment centre tips.
Hello, Jack. Thanks for joining us today.
Hello, it's lovely to see all of you today. How are you doing?
Oh, good, thank you. Good, thanks. I know there's lots of chat, isn't there, about interviews and assessment centres and stuff. And I suppose I've just got a few questions that I think maybe students might be interested in the answers. So first question for you, Jack, is what communication do the applicants actually get on the lead up to their assessment centre? And then what do they get after it?
Well, yeah, Kirsty's just done a brilliant kind of touch on this, but for a little bit more detail, any candidates, applicants that are successful at getting to that last stage, they'll all be kind of booked on, and as part of that, we'll receive a confirmation. So that will include some information about the day. You'll sort of learn about what's coming up, how you can best prepare yourself, and then you'll also receive a phone call. That'll be from one of the team who will just run over kind of some elements of your application, just make sure you guys are totally comfortable with the day and just check if there's any adjustments or requirements you might need in order to kind of bring your best self for that opportunity. So yeah, everyone will be given opportunities to ask questions then and actually engage with someone before the day in case you have any last minute nerves or worries. Don't worry, someone will be in touch and be able to talk you through it.
So we need people to answer their phones and check their emails then for sure, because that's how we're going to be contacting people that are going to the next stage. So that's good to know. And I mean, with these assessment centres then, Jack, how do they work do people get a break in there, or is it just full pelt, the whole thing? Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. So yeah, as Kirsty said, we'll be we like to make sure that we adapt as much as we're asking other people to adapt. So we've been taking, reviewing how these assessment centres have run over the past few years, and we're taking the best parts of them. We really like to kind of give you an insight into what the role might be. So just like kind of any working day, really, you're kind of coming in, logging into a call similar to this, and then you'll be talking immediately with a wonderful lead assessor. They'll be welcoming you to the day, again, kind of talking you through the outline. You'll meet some of your fellow candidates at that moment, have another kind of opportunity to ask any questions. And then you'll be going through your exercise, and of course there'll be time for breaks. They work really well to share kind of on the screen what time you're expected to have your camera on, what time you're expected to be there for your next exercise, etc. And yeah, of course, if you need to jump out, grab a glass of water, etc., there'll be multiple points through the day where you're able to do that.
Oh, that's good to know, because I mean, with the assessment centres, I think people often think like, am I being assessed literally from the minute I'm on right through the end, or is there bits of it that you're not actually being assessed on? How does it work?
Yeah, we hear that question quite a lot. No, we're absolutely kind of clear. We want everybody to be kind of open and honest with us, and we're absolutely open and honest with everybody that's going through these moments. Because a bit like Ian was saying, you know, we want everybody to get an opportunity to understand if that role is right for them as much as if they're right for the role. So there'll only be sort of dedicated assessors there for you during your exercises. It'll be very clear as people join calls and you'll move between rooms, what is an assessment and what's not. The kind of clear moments where I've already touched on one where you're welcome to the day. That'll just be there really as another opportunity for you guys to get comfortable. But also a piece at the end of the day, which is absolutely not assessed and is really almost your opportunity to assess Lloyds Banking Group. You'll get time to speak with individuals that are current apprentices and ask them questions about what the role might be like, what to expect, anything else that you might want to know about those next stages. None of that at all will be assessed. You get your chance there really to let rip and ask any more final nuggets of information you want to gather.
Oh, good. Well, I mean, obviously, there's been so many assessment centres, hasn't there, that have taken place. I mean, is there any feedback that we've had from candidates about the assessment centres that you want to tell everybody about, Jack?
Yeah. Oh, a few bits that spring to mind, I suppose, are over the years, first and foremost, the assessors that people meet on today, like the most kind of common bit of feedback that we get is how welcoming and how easy to kind of work with and get along with the assessors on the day. So that's probably one of the main kind of things that stand out as part of a Lloyds Banking Group assessment centre. Other elements are, like I kind of touched on, the Q&A session at the end is really one that's felt useful. I know these assessment processes can be, a lot of time and effort goes into them. So it's really nice to get those opportunities to kind of do that verification, make sure that you're happy with what you'd be the role you'd be going into. So that's usually probably two of the key things that spring to mind. And then the only other piece, I suppose, is something that we really kind of pride ourselves on is the moments and the opportunities, the insights that actually you gain through the day in terms of what you might be doing in your role. We try and make the experience as engaging and as fun as possible too. So it's not quite your typical process, but one that is enjoyable and one that has got a bit of variety to it.
Yeah, great. And I mean, I hear from colleagues that say they actually really enjoyed their assessment centre, which is really great because you might be fooled into thinking it might be something to dread. Well, we've talked about managing our nerves and things like that, haven't we? But we have had some fantastic feedback. I mean, I've got time for one more question for you, Jack. So if anybody's got any additional needs or any requirements that they need to let us know about for the assessment centre, who should they be telling and at what point in the process should they talk about those things?
Any questions you might have as people are going through, we've got a dedicated team that are always on our help desk. It's I'll maybe Dan, you can support popping it into the chat as well, but it's Lloyds Banking Group at capfinity.com. That's the email. It's Lloyds Banking Group at capfinity.com, and that is that's manned all kind of working days, Monday to Friday. So if you have any curiosities or questions that you want about the assessment process, if you need any extra support, that's where to go to. And as I mentioned as well later, we are currently working to provide a kind of dedicated practice zone where during and before any assessments that take place, you can kind of log in and practice, see examples of questions, see examples of assessments, get that opportunity to try things out. And then again, you'll get that reminder of that email address I've just said, should you have any worries about, complications in completing these, or just want a little more time to kind of speak to somebody about any adjustments you might require. That email is there for you to take away. So I'll make sure that's shared in the chat shortly.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jack. Thanks so much for sharing with us some of the sort of practicalities, I think, of the assessment centre. I think sometimes when people know what to expect, it can actually help to take away some of those nerves. So that's been brilliant. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jack. And now it's time to hear a little bit of insight from one of our apprentices. And it's Robin. Robin is one of our apprentices at Lloyds who started with us in September 2024. So, hi, Robin. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, yes. So I'm Nittabel. So I'm Robin, as you said, I'm an apprentice, and I started 3 months ago yesterday. The time really has flown by, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it here. So I am 28, so I'm a little bit older. I'm a career changer. So I was a primary school teacher and senior leader. In a school in North Yorkshire, and now I'm based in Leeds, and I'm an HR apprentice.
So how did you apply for your how did you prepare for your LBG application process?
Right. Well, I found out everything I possibly could about Lloyds. I think, kind of stepping back, actually, the first thing I wanted to do was make sure that HR was for me, and that was the career that I wanted to go into. So first of all, I found out everything I possibly could about HR, why I wanted to do it, what I wanted, kind of my long-term career aspects to be. I thought about what I enjoyed about my previous role. You guys might want to think about what subjects you enjoy in school or college or uni or whatever stage you're at now. For me, I really enjoyed the communication aspect. I was communicating with so many different people on a daily basis. And I also enjoyed the strategic planning element of my job. And I thought, actually, you know what, HR it combines both of those things. So that was important. Then I looked at Lloyds Banking Group again, prepared by finding out everything I could. I thought about their values. I thought about how they helped Britain prosper. I even found out that although they're a massive company, and to be honest, that is probably what drew me to them first, that they help loads of charities. And actually, one of the charities that they help is near to me, and I'd actually done a school bake sale for one of those charities. So suddenly this massive company, and don't get me wrong, it is massive, it suddenly started to feel a little bit smaller and a little bit less daunting. But I think, I just found out as much as I possibly could. I thought about the skills that I have. And I think at first that was quite tricky. Not that I don't have any. I think it's just that it's kind of thinking, right, well, these are the skills that I have, but how can I make them what the job's looking for, and really kind of mapping those out and thinking, like what Ian said about those skills builder activities, skills builder skills, listening, speaking, there's 8 of them, really kind of trying to think about how my skills go into that role. I think that was my main thing that I did to prepare.
Oh, nice. Do you mind telling us what skill or skills you think was important in applying to this scheme?
Whoa, I think probably all of them really. When I say all of them, all of the skills builder skills. But I think showing that, first of all, you can listen. As an apprentice, you are constantly learning lots and lots of different things. I mean, at the moment, I'm doing a project with Elaine, and Elaine is teaching me so many things, and I love working with Elaine. And there's lots to take in. So I think showing that you can listen, but then also showing that you can speak, you can be bold, you can put your ideas forward, because at the end of the day, that's what they're paying you to do. They're wanting you to put your ideas forward. So I think it's being bold, but also being able to listen and then reflect. I think I always kind of, when I've gone into an interview, I've always done that star, the situation, right? What was happening, the task, what did I do? How did I do it? What was the result? But then there's kind of another R, which is the reflection. They might ask you this question, it's a tricky one, but that kind of question of, if you were to do this again, if that happened again, what would you do differently? And I think often the answer is saying nothing is, I wouldn't do anything, is kind of maybe not what they're looking for, because you could always work on things and do better. So I think being reflective is another skill. that was kind of important for that application process.
Wow, thank you very much. Yeah, I think listening is very important. And okay, so I have one more question for you, and it's if you have any advice for any viewers who are thinking of applying to LBG apprenticeship schemes.
Yeah, I think obviously be reflective. I think enthusiasm is a big one. I remember sitting in my interview and I remember literally saying, I really would like this job. This is like a perfect job for me because I really believed it. And I think when people are nervous, they sometimes almost forget to show that enthusiasm. I was talking to a colleague the other day who said, you know, Robin, I can teach knowledge and I can teach skills, but I can't teach enthusiasm. And I think from a recruitment point of view, if you were sitting as that interviewer, I mean, for me, I would pick somebody who was keen and really enthusiastic about the role and show that you're enthusiastic, show that you've done that pre-work and found out everything. Because that's your chance. But I think as well, it's important to remember that it's two ways. I think maybe Kerry or Ian touched on this earlier, but it is two ways. So you've got to make sure that that role and that company is right for you, as well as obviously they're thinking, are you the person for us? So I think when you get that opportunity to ask a question at the end, definitely ask a question and ask a question that you really want to find the answer out to, not a question that you think that might impress them necessarily. Yeah, so I think just be inquisitive, be curious, be reflective, but show your enthusiasm.
Thank you so much for that insight. And also thank you to all of our guests that joined us today. Can you believe our time is nearly up? Right at the beginning of the show, we asked you guys about a poll to see your views on applying to LBG. Let's try again and see if any of your guys' views have changed.
Let's have a look and see what comes through. So back to, if you do think you'd really like to apply to come and work with us, there's 5. And then if you, from what you've heard, you're thinking, no, not really for me, then I'd say it's a 1. But hopefully I can seeing all the votes coming through here, Mahitbel. We got a lot of the most popular is the 4s, so that's really good. So lots of you voting, thank you for that. Really looks positive overall, so that's great. Great to hear.
There's a very closely followed by 5, so
yeah,
very high score.
Yeah, very high score, so that's brilliant. Well, great, thank you. Thanks for your input and thank you for letting us know what you think about whether you'd want to come and work with us at Lloyds Banking Group. Well, Mahitbel, back to you.
We hope tonight's been really helpful in showing you some different career options. And as you heard from our guests, being yourself and being prepared is key. We want to keep supporting you after the call today, and the best way to do this is through our Imagine What's Next platform. Here, you can find learning, more information about the apprenticeships that we offer, and access some work experience from over 100 mentors in the bank who've all been here and ready to share their experiences. If you take just one action from this evening, make sure you signed up to what Imagine's What's Next. You were able to find the link in the chat function, or you can follow the link in the QR code behind me and behind me and Elaine.
Yeah. We've all got the QR codes behind us. Thanks, Mahitbel. So yeah, I like you, Mahitbel. I can't believe we're coming to the end of today. It's just flown by, and I mean, we will be back on Tuesday, the 7th of January next year, 2025. We'll be really looking forward to chatting with you all then and telling you all about what's going on. So, you know, from our perspective, we hope that for those of you that celebrate Christmas, you have a fantastic time over the Christmas period and a great festive break. And hopefully you can enjoy a few days of rest. So that will be coming up very, very soon.
Another thing to add is we will be running a live chat for anyone applying to our apprenticeship opportunities on the 9th of January. So more details will be available on the Imagine What's Next platform and our Instagram, which is at LBG Early Talent. Thank you.
That's great.
So we've loved having you. Thank you. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, well, that's great. And I want to thank everyone who has joined us this evening for this really insightful session on making impactful applications. As Elaine said at the very start of the session, the Lloyds Banking Group apprenticeships will be going live. So we really hope that this session's given you a bit of an idea to what to expect when it comes to making applications. And we hope that after today's session, you will be making some considerate and careful applications over the Christmas break. And if Lloyds Banking Group was your career of choice, we do really hope you do apply, and good luck with your applications. I have just popped into the chat box here the Lloyds Banking Group Imagine What's Next platform. So please do sign up to that platform to be one of the first people to hear about when roles do go live. We have also just popped in the certificate link as well, which you can use on your application. So if you do decide to apply to one of the Lloyds Banking Group roles, it will be great to draw upon your experience that you've heard from here today, maybe some of the speakers that you've enjoyed listening to, and really drawing out on some of those key top tips that the team have shared with you today. Now, whilst you are filling in those links, so whilst you're signing up to the Imagine What's Next platform and the certificate link, I'm going to leave you all today with a final video to end the session off. So I'm just going to play this final video. Whilst you're watching the video, please do fill in those links and get yourself signed up. Thank you.